Business strategy in the USA. Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to Brian J. Pombo Live. Today today is Independence Day, July 4th, 2020. And you're more than likely watching this a day or so later, if not years in the future, but it still applies because what I'm going to talk to you about is business strategy in terms that I think we could all relate to, or at least anyone that's familiar with the history of the United States. So, what's unique about the United States, we can go on and on and on about what's unique about it. One of the things that has held it together, including the Constitution for as long as it has gone on for, is the fact that there was a very unique mission statement at the beginning. And if July 4th commemorates anything, it's more that than anything else, even though it was signed on July 2nd. For some reason, we ended up celebrating on July 4th, and no one, there's always debates as to why that is. But July 4th is all about, it's not about the Constitution. That happened years and years later. It's about the Declaration of Independence, which happened after the war had pretty much already begun, but it made it official. It made it to where you had official people in each of the colonies saying specifically, we are for revolution, we are for being our own entities, our own countries apart from Britain on an official capacity. So, the brilliant thing about this is it's all strategy, and if you can somehow transmute this and look at this back into your business and realize that some of the pieces you may be missing in order to go from where you're at to where you want to be is true, clear strategy. Not that just puts you on the right page and keeps you on the right page, but puts your entire company on the right page and anybody that wants to do business with you understanding the perspective you're coming from and where you're going with your business, what it's all about, what it means. And this goes beyond a mission statement. I know a lot of that stuff has become very cliche over the years, but it's beyond that. It's more about this is a specific concept, a specific idea, a specific direction we're taking things that is different from where we've been up until this point. Okay, if you just look at the Declaration of Independence, it does that. So I've got a copy here on my little Kindle Fire here, and this is the Declaration of Independence, directly from the archives website of the U.S. official government archives. And I'm not going to read it for you piece by piece. You go and look at all this stuff up on your own. It's not actually that long, and it's not really that tough to understand. If you take it paragraph by paragraph, it makes a lot of sense. And once again, this has to, what I want you to do is think about this from a business perspective and how clear cut this was made. So in the very first thing is a unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's time. It's a bit really long way of saying, hey, being that we think we need to split things up between us and Great Britain, being that's the case, we're going to tell you why. I mean, that's what the first paragraph says. Here's what we're about to say. So it's that old thing. I don't know if you ever took speech class, but that old saying where they say, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell it to them, and then tell them what you told them. That's how you divide up just about any speech. Good speech is you're basically saying the same thing 3 times in different ways. And then it gets into the main stanza, which everyone always talks about. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And it basically says, hey, we think this should be obvious and clear to anybody that could stand back and take a look at it objectively, that we think that we ought to be able to do our own thing, and that this is the whole reasons why we have government to begin with. And if the government isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, we have the right to change that government, because all government is based on what people want it to be anyways. So that's all they're saying there, and then they'll go through obviously a lot more detail, a lot more clarity, and there's history behind every every sentence because Jefferson used such flowery language. It was all based on other things, and there's all these undertones that go with it. But just understanding, they start out the whole thing saying, "Hey, the whole reason why we're writing this is we want to be clear about why we want to split ties." And then they say the reason why is we think we have a right to. That this should come with everything. And up until this point, the whole problem is we've been wanting better things from our relationship with Great Britain. We haven't been getting them, and everything that we've been getting has been bad that we've been seeing here, and we're going to list it out for you. And then they list out all the grievances. They say, to prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good, and then goes on and on and on, and lists all the things that they say that the King of England has, or King of Great Britain has done. And it goes on and lists those all out, all the things he has done and not done. And then they say, hey, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. So they say, hey, and we've tried to tell you about this. We've tried to get along. We've tried to toss things back at you, but we keep getting slapped back in the face. So it hasn't been our intention to split ties. That hasn't been what we've been going at. It's just we've got our backs up against the wall. And so then they say, so we therefore, representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for rectitude for our intentions, do in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. And it goes on into that, saying, hey, it's done. We're saying this is how it is, and if God agrees with us, it's gonna happen. And we're putting ourselves in His hands. I mean, they basically say that. They use all the flowery language of providence and all these things, but this is all saying that, hey, we're putting it in God's hands. We're telling you what our intentions are. This is where we're going. We're going to start a new government. We're going to start, or multiple governments. At this time, they didn't know they were even going to be one federal government. They just knew that they needed something else. So they said, we're starting something fresh, and we're cutting ties with you. And that's all there is to it. And it's just a very clear-cut, clean way of doing it. That's the Declaration of Independence. It's never really taught properly. I don't think we, most of the time, ever really give any clear thought to it, or what it really means. And obviously it's so much more depth. I mean, you could spend courses on one paragraph at a time, because there's so much history and depth behind all that, let alone everything that got cut out of the Declaration of Independence, which is a whole nother story. But the clarity of that document, I believe, is one of the main reasons why we survive as a country, and why we've continued to be able to move on despite all the problems. Every time we've gotten to a real sticky mess, whether it be the Civil War, whether it be civil rights, whether it be World War II, or in any of the situations where it looked like everything was just about to fall apart, the people that have brought us back out of it pointed back to the Declaration of Independence. Abraham Lincoln pointed back to the Declaration of Independence. He says, if that's true, then here's where we gotta go. We can't keep going if we don't recognize all people as human and having the rights that we talked about in the Declaration. Over and over again, the principles that were outlined there get brought back into the fray because it was a clear-cut message. That's strategy. It's based on principles, which is the best strategy. You can't have strategy that isn't fully based on principles. But it's strategy based on principles, and that allowed them to take the tactics to the next level. But without that background, without that foundation, I don't think anything like this would have ever happened or would have been able to survive. So, interesting thought for today. Hey, have a great Independence Day if you're still celebrating, or celebrate anytime you want. Have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and let the magic happen.